We're halfway done with the Get Started chapter of the Xcode help document. I will be reading the Manage Project files, which is a little long. I'll be reading about project navigation, adding files in folder, organizing files in groups, find and replace content, about workspaces, and referencing another project. You can follow along or watch the video, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Use the project navigation to open, add, delete, and organize files in your project. Click the Project Navigator button at the top of the Navigator area, and your project files are displayed in the content area below. To open a file, click the file to open it in the editor area. To view the properties of a file, select the file. In the menu, choose View, Inspectors, Show File Inspector. The file properties appear in the File Inspector. To search for a file, enter text in the filter field below the content area. To show recently modified files, click the Recent Files icon in the filter field. To show files with source control status, click the source control icon in the filter field. To unlock a file, select the file, then choose File menu, then Unlock. If the file is unlocked or you don't have permission to unlock it, the menu is disabled. To choose a relative or absolute location, in the File Inspector, choose a location from the Location pop-up menu. For example, choose Relative to Group, which is recommended, to preserve references when you move your project folder. To force a move operation, press and hold the Command key while dragging files. To force a copy operation, press and hold the Option key. To force a reference operation, press and hold the Command-Option key combination. Adding files and folders to a project. Xcode provides templates for the common types of files you may want to add to your project, such as playgrounds and Swift files. You can also add copies of or references to existing files and folders on your computer. Now let us add a new file from the template. In the Project Navigator, select the location where you want to add the file. Click the Add button in the filter bar and choose File from the pop-up menu, or in the menu, choose File, New, File. Click iOS, watchOS, tvOS, or macOS at the top of the sheet to display the templates for the platform. Templates are organized into groups such as Source, User Interface, and Resource. Select a template for the file type and click Next. In the following sheets, enter required information and click Next. For example, enter a class name for a class implementation file. In the last sheet, choose a location and enter a file name. Choose a group from the Group pop-up menu. If the group is associated with a folder, the project structure is the same as the file system structure. Select the targets that you want to add the file to, then click Create. The new file is selected in the Project Navigator and opens in the appropriate editor. A target specifies a product to build, such as an iOS, watchOS, or macOS app. When you create a project from a template, targets are added automatically. If you choose Unit and UI Test when creating a project, the project includes targets to the main app and the test apps. A watchOS app that is dependent on an iOS app has targets for the iOS app, WatchKit extension, and WatchKit app. macOS apps can have multiple targets too. Choose a target in the project editor to view and modify the target settings. Click the Add button in the project editor to add a new application, framework and library, test, or application extension target to your project. Target settings are edited in the following project editor panes. In the General pane, commonly edited target settings such as the bundle identifier, version, and build number are found. General settings exist in other target setting categories but are also included here for convenience. Signing and capabilities is where settings for code signing your app and enabling app services such as iCloud, push notifications, and Game Center is done. The Resource Tags pane is where you will find custom-defined tags your project uses to identify and manage sets of on-demand resources. In the info, settings contained within the info plist file of the target is displayed. In the build settings is where you specify exactly how the target is built. In the build phases, you will find settings that describe actions to be performed at build time, such as compiling source code and copying resources into the product. In the Build Rules pane, you will see settings that define custom rules for building specific types of files. Now let us add existing files in folders. In the Project Navigator, select the destination project or group for the item you want to add. Click the Add button in the filter bar, choose Add Files to the project name from the pop-up menu, or choose File, Add Files to the project name, and select the files or folders. At the bottom of the sheet, click Options. Choose options for how the files and folders are added. Copy items if needed. Copies the files and folders to the project folder. Create groups. Keeps the group structure the same as the file structure. Create folder references. Displays the folders in the Project Navigator but doesn't copy them to the project. A folder reference is a reference in the Project Navigator to a folder in the file system. In the Add to Targets, select the targets that you want to add to the file to. Optionally, click New Folder to add a folder to your files, and click Add. Here's a tip. You can also drag the files from the Finder to a location in the Project Navigator to add them. If you need to delete files and folders, these are the steps. In the Project Navigator, select the files and folders. In the main menu, choose Edit, Delete. In the dialog that appears, choose the Delete option. Remove the files and folders from the project and the file system. Click Move to Trash. Remove the files and folder references from the project only. Click Remove References. Organizing files in groups. You can use groups to help organize the files you add to your project. For example, a project created from a template contains a group containing the files for each target. A group is associated with an underlying folder with the same name by default. To add a new group in the Project Navigator, click where you want to add the group, then choose File, New Group. To create a group without an associated file, choose File, New, Group Without Folder. To add files to a new group, select the files, then choose File, New, Group from Selection. The files are moved to the associated folder in the file system. To add files to an existing group, select the files and drag them to the group. If the group is associated with a folder, the files are moved to the associated folder. To rename a file or group, double-click the file or group, then enter the new name. To change the group's associated folder, select the group, then choose View, Inspectors, Show File Inspector. To change the associated folder, drag the new folder from the Finder, to the old folder name under Location in the File Inspector. To remove an associated folder, click the Delete icon under Location. To add an associated folder, click the folder icon. Important: if a group is associated with a folder, all rename, delete, move, and copy operations are performed in the underlying file system. If you use source control, all operations are performed using the respective source control system and work across source control systems. If you move files between groups that are in the same Git repository, the files are moved between the associated folders in the file system. If the files are in different repositories, the files are copied from one associated folder to the other associated folder. Finding and replacing content in a project. Use the Find Navigator to perform search and replace operations across the project. To find text, click the Search Criteria bar, choose Find Text, and choose a criteria such as containing, matching, starting with, or ending with. Enter a text into the search field. Select an option from the case sensitivity pop-up menu, ignoring case or matching case, and press Return. Then select a result to show it in the editor area. To find symbol references, click the Search Criteria bar, choose Find References, and choose a criteria containing matching, starting with, or ending with. Enter a symbol name into the search field. Select an option from the case sensitivity pop-up menu, ignoring case or matching case, and press Return. Then select a result to show it in the editor area. To find symbol definitions, click the Search Criteria bar, choose Find Definitions, and choose a criteria containing, matching, starting with, or ending with. Enter a symbol name into the search field. Select an option from the case sensitivity pop-up menu, ignoring case or matching case, and press Return. Then select a result to show it in the editor area. To find the call hierarchy of a method, click the Search Criteria bar, choose Find Call Hierarchy. Enter a method name into the search field. Select an option from the case sensitivity pop-up menu, ignoring case or matching case, and press Return. Then select a result to show it in the editor area. To replace instances of found text, click the Search Criteria bar, choose Replace Text, and choose a criteria containing, matching, starting with, or ending with. Enter text into the search field. Select an option from the case sensitivity pop-up menu, ignoring case or matching case. Enter text into the replacement field and press Return. To replace a single found instance, select the found instance in the results area and click Replace. To replace all instances, click Replace All. To filter lists of search results, enter text in the filter bar to narrow down the list of search results. Scope of find or replace operations. When performing a find or replace operation, click the Scope button. Click a project or group to restrict searching to that project group, or click New Scope to define a custom scope. A custom scope can restrict searching to files matching a specific location, name, path, extension, type, and source control status. To find using patterns. Use patterns to refine a search by adding placeholders for white spaces, URLs, hexadecimal digits, and other characters into the search field. When performing a find or replace operation, click the magnifying glass icon in the search field and choose Insert Pattern from the pop-up menu. Select a pattern to insert in the search field. Find or replace using regular expressions. Click the search criteria bar, choose Find, Regular Expression or Replace, then Regular Expression. Enter a regular expression into the search field or replacement field. Proceed as you normally would with the find and replace operation. Note: in General Preferences, you can set the amount of detail that appears in the Find navigator. Use workspaces for related projects. You can use Workspace as a container for several related projects. Xcode will detect implicit link dependencies between multiple targets in a workspace and build targets in the correct order. For example, Xcode builds a framework target before app targets, which link to that framework. To create a workspace, choose File, New, Workspace. Enter the workspace name and specify its location in your file system and click Save. To add a project to a workspace. In the Project Navigator, Control-click in the empty space below the list, then choose Add Files to Workspace. In the sheet that appears, select the project, a file with .xcodeproj file extension. Then click Add. The project appears in the Project Navigator. Alternatively, drag a project from Finder or a workspace window to the Project Navigator. Make sure that you add the project at the root level, not as a subproject of another project. To reference a project from another project. A project can include a cross-project reference to another project for the purposes of establishing a dependency and referring to the other project's targets, files, and products. A build dependency is the reliance of one target of the built products and another target. In some cases, Xcode can discover these dependencies and build targets in the appropriate order. For example, when an app target links to a library target, Xcode can infer that the library target must be built first. Such a relationship is an implicit dependency. You can also define an explicit dependency on another target in the target dependencies build phase of a target. In this case, you specify the order in which the other target is built. Note: Define implicit dependencies checkbox must be selected in the build pane of the scheme editor for Xcode to infer target dependencies. A product, such as an app, library, or framework, is the result of a build. You define a product as either a target in a project or a product in a Swift package. Open the Project Navigator. Click the Add button at the bottom of the Project Navigator. Choose Add Files to Project from the menu that appears. Select the desired project folder and click Add. After adding a cross-project reference to a project, you can refer to the other project's targets, files, and products using the target dependencies, copy files, and link binary with libraries build phases. If the other project cannot be located at build time, the build system still attempts to build the product, but produces missing dependency warnings. A build phase defines tasks to be performed when building a target. To view the build phases, open the project editor and click Build Phases. To add a build phases that doesn't appear in the editor, click the Add and choose a build phase from the pop-up menu. It's generally good practice to use a workspace to manage multiple projects. However, projects defined within workspaces cannot define explicit dependencies on one another. I just read the Manage Project Files section of the Get Started chapter. You just saw and heard about project navigation, adding and organizing files in groups, find and replace content, using workspaces, and referencing another project. Hit the subscribe button to stay tuned for 3 more videos of the Get Started chapter.